Hi everyone, and welcome back to Leah Binges, because my name is Leah and I like to binge watch a lot of movies and TV shows. I hope everyone is doing very well, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I just wanted to talk about 911 Lone Star, which, if you didn't know, is a spinoff of 911, which originally aired on Fox, which follows Owen Strand and his son TK Strand, which were originally firefighters in New York but got recruited down to Texas to help rebuild the 126 firehouse. So without further ado, let's just get into my thoughts and opinions. I'm so glad that I finally got around to watching this series, because it's been on my list since it started airing, because I really, really loved the original 911 series. And I know that means that the show had a lot to live up to, but I was gonna give it a try, but then I just kept pushing it off and pushing it off. But part of my New Year's resolutions, if you didn't see that video that I posted, was that I was gonna try and get through the shows that I've had on my list for a long time. And I especially partially wanted to focus on watching a whole bunch of first responder type shows. So I finally just sat down and got to it, which I will say was a little tough at the beginning, because I kind of hated season 1. I am just so glad that season 1 was only a couple of episodes and not a full 20 episode season, because it was genuinely kind of tough to get through. It was kind of boring, and I just did not care about what was happening at all. I am glad I sat through it though, because the seasons 2 through 4 were really good in my opinion, but season 1 were just too heavy on Owen and Michelle, which I understand that at the time Owen was kind of considered the main character because he was the captain, and same with Michelle. She was the captain of the paramedic department. And I understand why they sort of did that, but I personally did not care about Michelle's storyline at all. And it totally ignored the other characters when it's supposed to be a group cast. It's supposed to be a group cast and a group TV show, but it focused so heavily on Owen and Michelle, and both of them were just kind of boring characters in my opinion in season 1. The only episode in season 1 that I really liked was the one episode that focused on Paul as he was trying to date. But other than that, by the time I got to episode 7 or 8, I think I just started skipping through Michelle's scenes, because it was just so Michelle heavy, and I found her so annoying for some reason. I just couldn't get through it. So I just started skipping it. But so as long as they were focusing on the other characters, I was good to go. But like I said, luckily, season 1 was not that long, so it was easier to get through. And then once I did get through it, seasons 2 through 4 were really good in my opinion. It definitely lived up to the original show, and definitely felt similar to the original 911. It did a much better job of highlighting each of the characters and had interesting storylines. I will also say that I really appreciated that 911 Lone Star did a better job dealing with natural disasters. The original 911 show, in my opinion, has kind of an issue with natural disasters, because it's trying to create stakes and trying to create big natural disasters for the first responders to respond to, but there were just too many of them, and they keep trying to get bigger and bigger, which, yes, those are good episodes. I definitely like the earthquake episode and the tsunami episode, but then the episodes after it, they just totally forget that those happened and then go back to work like nothing happened and just keep on pushing on, which kind of bothers me a little bit. You'll see all this disaster and all this rubble from the natural disaster, and then come the next episode, it's just not even there, which is a little weird. But luckily, 911 Lone Star doesn't really do that much. I think they do a better job of making things feel kind of cohesive. And then even, they had the firehouse catch fire, and they had natural disasters, but it felt a little bit even then they had more cohesion to the storylines. Next episode, it's not the firehouse was immediately fixed, we still had to go through the process of like rebuilding and things like that, which I kind of appreciated because it kind of takes you out of the storyline when there are like buildings falling down and the next episode they just totally forgot that those buildings fell down. So I did like that. And overall, just seasons 2 through 4 were really, really good to me. Like I blew through them because I just had such a fun time watching the characters and the storylines, which I'll get a little bit more into the characters and storylines later that I really liked. But then we get to season 5, which season 5, in my opinion, has very mixed opinions because everything just kind of feels disjointed once you get to season 5. It didn't bother me as much as I know it bothered a lot of other people because I was reading comments online while I was watching it, and everyone seemed to absolutely just despise everything about it, but it didn't bother me that much. I will say there was some inconsistent character writing. The ending felt super duper rushed because you had a natural disaster, but then in the last like 5 minutes of the last episode, they're like just speed running everyone's storylines, and they're like, oh yeah, Marjan's pregnant and they got married, and oh wait, oh now like Jonah got adopted, and slow down. We could have had the entire like last 2 episodes trying to wrap up storylines. We didn't need to speed run it. Like, what was the point in having a major catastrophic event in the finale just to do a time jump to wrap up all the storylines? You didn't need the major catastrophic event. You didn't need it. You could have just cut it out and just focused on storylines at that point. There was also this weird misdirect in the finale where they were like, oh yeah, Owen died, and then Owen wasn't dead. I'm not saying I wanted Owen to die, but why did we need to have the misdirect that he did die? Could have gotten rid of it altogether. It was weird. They also, again, in season 5, they did the same thing that they did in season 1, where Paul was basically a totally forgotten character, which I actually really liked Paul. But come season 5, he had a relationship and he was fighting for lieutenant, and yet once he got the promotion and he was in that relationship, they just kind of forgot about him again. Like, I don't think they even really mentioned him in the finale, which was a little disappointing. I also thought that the like Enzo being arrested storyline was also pointless because we didn't even meet Enzo until the same episode that he's arrested in. And it was really only introduced to have Carlos and TK be parents to Jonah. But like, if they wanted to introduce like a parenting/adoption storyline for Carlos and TK, it didn't have to be Jonah. They could have like adopted another kid. So it just seemed a little weird to like give everyone more trauma just to like have this parenting storyline. It was a little unnecessary in my opinion. I also do think that because they were kind of rushing through storylines, they had problems that were introduced just to be magically solved in the next episode, like the fact that like Carlos and TK weren't allowed to adopt Jonah because they had dangerous jobs, but then literally the next episode, TK just left his job at the firehouse, and so they could adopt Jonah. Like, it was just magically solved. There was no real like discussion or problem with it. Same with like Tommy's cancer. I really like Tommy, so why did you have to give her cancer just to magically say, oh, now there's this magical cure and she doesn't have cancer anymore? Okay, what was the point then? Like, I don't know. It just was weird. And I'm not saying that I wanted them to like kill Tommy off, but it just was something that I was like, we didn't really need to have the cancer altogether then. I also do agree with people's complaints that season 5 ruined Judd and Grace's relationship, which was one of the best on the show. I understand that there were like background issues going on regarding like pay discrepancies. Like, the show itself was canceled for how expensive it was to make, and Grace's actor ended up leaving because she wanted higher pay than they were willing to give her. I'm not going to pretend to know the entire issues that happened background. I'm just going off what I've read online. So don't take my word for it, because none of us truly know what happened backstage and in the background other than the actress and like production. So I'm not going to speculate on that. And I totally understand if there are issues in the background. But the problem was that then writing Grace off by just saying, oh yeah, she went somewhere to do something. Like, there was no specifics really. It just was like, oh yeah, Grace just like totally left Judd and her child to go somewhere. Like, and then they had major plot points like Tommy's cancer and Judd being named captain. And then they introduced Judd having alcoholism. And there are all these like bad things that are happening in these people's lives. And you're telling me that Grace is not going to come back for any of them? Like, that's just lazy writing. They could have done something. Like, they genuinely could have still had Grace in the season and just not shown her. Like, I know people wouldn't have been super happy with that either, but I think it would have made more sense if they just had comments throughout the season of Judd being like, oh, Grace sends her love, she's at home with the kid right now, or something like that. That's my personal opinion. I feel like there was a better way to handle it rather than just being like, oh yeah, Grace left and she's not coming back. Oh, her best friend has cancer. Oh, Grace is not coming back for that. Oh, her husband is dealing with alcoholism. Grace is not coming back for that. Like, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But overall, like, these are not things that I necessarily noticed or that like, a lot of these issues in my head got amplified and like I started noticing them more because I was seeing people online complain about it. Obviously, Grace not being there was weird, but like, I wasn't really noticing all of the rushed and weird storylines until I saw people complaining about it online, and then I started to notice them even more. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt that these are not things that I probably would have noticed or that would have bothered me without seeing other people already complain about it. Now on to like the different characters and my thoughts on them. First up is Michelle. I think I've already made my opinion clear on Michelle. She just was like kind of flat. I don't know what it was exactly about her that I just could not stand. So, moving on. Next up is TK and Carlos, which are my favorites in the whole show. They were the highlight of the entire show, in my opinion. Don't really have much else to say other than I loved them. They're great. Highlighted the show. Kind of saved the show, in my opinion. I only really kept going in season 1, even though I didn't really like season 1. But I kept going purely for TK and Carlos. Next up is Nancy and Mateo, which are also so freaking cute together. Like, I called that from like a season before they even introduced it. Like, the minute they started talking to each other, I was like, they would be cute together. And then that's exactly what they did. And I was like, yay me. So just wanted to point that out, that I saw it coming and they're super cute. And honestly, I want to say they're some of my favorites, but honestly, I say that about literally all the characters. So I'm going to try and not say that about them. Same with Judd and Grace. They were my favorites throughout the whole series until the final season. Like, they were just so supportive of each other and like always there for each other. And that's why it didn't make any sense really for Grace to be leaving. But like, overall, they were just so cute and such a healthy relationship. And like, every time something bad happened to them, it was just truly devastating because they were just such a cute couple and such a healthy couple. And I loved that for them. Next up, we have Paul. Again, guilty of me saying this about almost every single character there. Paul was one of my favorites. I do, however, wish they gave him more storylines and more attention, because like I said, we have that one episode in season 1 where it's Paul heavy, and I really, really enjoyed that storyline. And then I think they have one more episode that's Paul heavy that I liked, but then throughout the rest of the show, Paul is like just kind of there. And that was disappointing because I really enjoyed the Paul storylines that they gave him. So just give him more, please. That was a little frustrating. And then same thing with like into season 5, they gave him a relationship and they were giving him like issues within that relationship. But then once he decided to actually go out with her, then that was just kind of it. They're just like, oh yeah, Paul has a girlfriend now. And then they just kind of dropped it. So if they were speedrunning every other relationship and every other storyline by the end of the series, they could have at least been like, oh, in the finale, they could have mentioned, oh, like Paul is moving in with his girlfriend or something to try and like hint that at least like Paul was getting like a happy ending. Because as is, he was just kind of there in the finale. Lastly, the Owen and Marjan, I don't really have much to say about them. Like, they were just both kind of there for me, in my opinion. Like, I know Marjan is, like, everyone's favorite. Like, every time I was looking online, everyone's like, oh, Marjan's my queen, Marjan this, Marjan that. And I do agree with that. Like, she's definitely a badass, and she was given a lot of really great storylines. But I don't know, she just wasn't one of my favorites, personally. Which was a little disappointing, because, like, I wanted to enjoy her as much as I was enjoying all the rest of the characters, but I guess I was so distracted by like, oh, I want to see more of these other characters that I like better, that I just was like, okay, she's just kind of there, which was unfortunate for me. I wanted to like her so much more than I did, and I just don't have that much else to say about it. Same with Owen. He was fine, he was there, I enjoyed his presence, but there just wasn't a whole lot going on with him that I really cared about that much. Lastly, but certainly not least, is Tommy, which, again, I've said this about almost everyone here, but she's one of my favorites. They did throw her some, like, really stupid storylines here and there, like the Tommy and Julian storyline. I did not like that. They could have excluded that. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if it was just that the actor wanted to leave or what, but again, Tommy had one of the most healthy relationships in the show, and the fact that they killed off her husband was rude in my opinion, and a little bit unnecessary. Like, they could have just been happy. Why did we need to kill him off? I don't know. I did like her and the priest guy, but like, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but I did enjoy their relationship and her relationship with his daughter and things like that. But again, then why did we need to end it? Like, couldn't they have just lived happy together now that she already lost her husband? Why did we need to make her suffer again? I do not know. Just let Tommy be happy. Unnecessary. Also, they like broke her up and then she had to have cancer like right after they just broke up and she's already devastated. Hurtful. They didn't need to keep throwing things at her. That was upsetting that they kept throwing things at her, because I loved her. No complaints, except for the writers who kept putting her through the worst things. And that's it. That's all I have to say about 911 Lone Star. If you have seen 911 or 911 Lone Star and you have any thoughts or opinions on the show or the characters, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you liked my little rant here about 911 Lone Star, go ahead and give this video a like and consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, or check out any of my other videos that I currently have posted. I'm trying really, really hard to get more content out there for you guys, and so you guys have a lot more to watch. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a good one. Bye!